discussions for the day. Hashtag Good Morning Kenya is what we are using on Twitter. Keep sending those tweets. Keep letting us know where you're watching us from, how you're enjoying the show for that matter. We absolutely love to hear from you. So we want to continue with the discussions for the day. And right now we are switching gears to something that is closer to the heart and still in respect, still focusing on women. And right now we just want to look at life in prison and after prison and the whole aspect of confidence where it's involved. So, and just to help me with this discussion, we have Rispa Oluga to my immediate left. Rispa Oluga, she is a Confidence Sanitary Towel representative. Karibu sana, welcome back in a different capacity. Yes, and to the extreme left, we have Teresa Njoroge. She is the CEO and a co-founder, of Clean Start organization. Now, this is an interview that is more personal, that is of a personal experience of Teresa. She was the one who was behind bars a few years back. She was behind bars, wrongfully incriminated, and we'll just be getting to find out why that was so and what she is doing right now to just trying to help other women who are behind bars, probably wrongly incriminated, and just what do they go through? How do they even just get through the years that they are there? And especially for her, she had a child while she was in prison. Let's just start by just hearing your story, how you found yourself in prison as a whole.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
I used to work as a banker, and I happened to handle a fraudulent transaction unknowingly. When investigations started, I didn't think that I would end up, being prosecuted for that fraudulent transaction.
It seemed like a joke, at first.
Exactly, and I truly, honestly thought that we would, have genuine, honest investigations and get to the bottom of who had dropped the ball, who were the people who had allowed the fraud to happen and the bank to lose the money. However, along that journey, I actually, got arrested, got terminated from work, but even more worse is that I was asked to pay bribes so that the prosecution could not continue with the case. When you know your values, it's very easy to make decisions.
Yeah.
So we did not go with
that route.
Paying the bribes.
Okay.
And so prosecution started the case, 2.5 years in and out of court. It was very difficult because I didn't have any work. Especially after being in the media as a bank thief. It was very shameful, very embarrassing, a very difficult time when you're trying to prove that you're innocent, yet you've been branded
as a thief. On a national scale.
Exactly.
Okay.
It really was tough.
Yeah.
Closer to judgment, again, I was asked to bribe so that I could get a favorable judgment. But I stood with what I believed in.
The truth.
The truth. And judgment came, and unfortunately, I was sentenced to serve a year.
So they found you guilty on what grounds exactly? What were the charges?
Yeah, so I had 4 counts, 3 for theft, and 1 was for conspiracy to defraud my employer.
The organization.
All the counts on theft were dropped. They were all dropped. But the magistrate said to me that there could have been a probability that I knew it was a fraudulent transaction.
But you didn't. You still proceeded. That's what they argued.
Yeah, that was the argument of the sentencing. And my question was, how could I have conspired and not steal the money?
Yeah.
And who did I conspire with? So I had come to understand it was all, it wasn't straightforward, and that was my first experience with the injustices and the rot within our criminal justice system, that no matter how innocent you are, if you do not side with paying bribes, you will not, you will not get justice. And the narratives that we have in this country, like for instance, if you're rich and guilty, you can walk. If you're poor and innocent, too bad, started hitting home at that point.
You will be the scapegoat in that situation.
I was that scapegoat, and they actually said to me, you will carry the cross on behalf of the bank.
Was it just you who was prosecuted, or there were others that were prosecuted along with you?
It was very malicious, as I was the only one out of almost 12 people who had handled that transaction who was prosecuted.
Now, during this time that you're going through all it, you just mentioned it was about a 2-year period that you were in and out of court up until you were actually sentenced. Now, you became a mother
Yes.
just before you went to prison.
Yes.
How was that for you, just the psychological impact?
Yeah.
You know, being pregnant as a whole
Yeah.
is a journey in itself.
Yeah.
Now here you are, pregnant, expectant,
Yeah.
and you have to deal with these injustices that you're facing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My daughter, the most beautiful thing that came out of the 2.5 horrendous years, I named her Oma, which means truth in my language, as that's all I prayed for all through that time. And as a first-time mother, and knowing that I was innocent, I honestly was preparing myself to now start my life afresh and start bringing up my daughter the way that I had always prepared and planned for. So that sentencing was a shock on me. It was very traumatic. I had never envisioned that, let alone I going to prison, would have to carry my firstborn daughter with me and experience what being a mother is in prison. She was only 3 months old when I got sentenced, and going into prison and finding out that there's absolutely nothing for the little ones, because prisons were built for the adult women.
Yeah.
And so trying to figure out how I'll clothe her, how I'll keep her clean, how I'll even change
her
her,
warm.
because those are luxuries
Yeah.
in prison. We don't have any allocation for children, whether it's health-wise, you know, for their nutrition, for their comfort, there's nothing. And so it was a double sentence at once. A sentence as a mother on my daughter who was innocent, here serving a sentence for a crime she didn't commit. Here I was as well serving a sentence for a crime that I hadn't committed. It was a double sentence for us. The trauma that I now had to experience, and of course for my daughter, as young as she was, as much as she did not know the environment that we had now come into, there was a change. There was a change. But I did try to make the best out of the situation. And to be very honest, it is my daughter who gave me hope to wake up every other day and fight for a better future.
Now, Rispa, just hearing her story and just from your capacity, you deal with the sanitary towels, and you know how essential that is, especially for a new mom. And here she is being sentenced to prison and going with a newborn while at it. How does that even make you feel in the first place, and wrongfully incriminated?
Personally, I think this was a very courageous step that she took as a mother and as a first-time mom. Being behind bars, it's not easy dealing, especially with handling a child, and then you have all these issues going on post giving birth and all that. So you need some amenities which obviously were not available at the time, and it's about also just trying to figure out how those women, how the rest of the women in there actually cope with the whole situation, because feminine hygiene behind bars,
It's a challenge.
exactly, nobody really talks about it, and nobody has really come out and say, because you ask these women and you talk to them and they tell you, wow, we just work with what we have. So you don't have a preference, you don't have, and when you come out here, then also, you know, the whole, because you're not
Before you
well
adjust,
educated and you don't have, your mind is not set on what kind of hygiene levels you need to have. So it's hard for you to also just adapt back to society.
So now you've gone to prison at Langata Women's
Yes.
maximum prison
Yes.
with a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah.
They are in that stage where they don't even sleep well.
Yes.
And now you're in prison.
Yeah.
How was your first night just settling in
Yeah.
and actually realizing you're in prison
Yeah.
with a newborn?
Yeah, it was very traumatic, because you go into prison, and prison it's its own world. And having come from a corporate world, a good background, it's something you've never even thought about. And you're shocked by the environment, the culture here, the language. And we were locked up with close to other 50 to 60 women who also had their small little babies. And we were locked up in this cell where...
You were in one side,
we
those who
yeah,
have babies?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
normally kept by ourselves. The women who are accompanied by their children to prison normally go by themselves. And the cries from these little ones at night, as you say, they can't sleep. But remember, even the conditions you've been kept in, the way you've been locked in there,
It's
you know,
not
it's not
conducive.
conducive for these children.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like there are toys or anything you can use to even change the atmosphere for your child, for your little one. It's not the food that you got that's nutritious for you to breastfeed and take care of your child. It's not the amenities that will help you, you know, make this child comfortable. The cries were throughout the night, you know, and the women there, so stressed, so traumatized. Some of them were they were single mothers, and so they've come with this child, but others are still out there by themselves because we do not have a social system that takes care.
children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The trauma that these women are going through, and as Rispa has mentioned, the feminine conditions for the women. I experienced women sharing panties, women not having enough sanitary towels.
And what was the alternative for even not just having a sanitary towel in the first place? What are some of the things that, or ways that women are actually just trying to employ when they're having their monthly periods?
It's very sad because I saw women tear their Bibles that missionaries, church people had come to donate, that they would tear that to use during their time. Share a panty, you know, very tough conditions, tear a mattress, things that I had never even thought about.
And here you are experiencing them.
This firsthand. I saw women look for carry bags to tie their children because they don't have access to diapers. They have no access to Vaseline or something to use on their baby. And it was just, it takes away every ounce of dignity that you have remaining. Because by the time you're getting to imprisonment stage, what you've been through the criminal justice system, you've been through all trauma that you could have experienced. From the time you got arrested at the police cells, the courts, the cells that you stay at in the courts, by the time you're coming to prison, you've been through all manner of trauma. And now here you are, stigmatized, an unwanted person from society. But what really hurt me was that most of these women, I would say 70% clean, were just in prison because they were poor, didn't have economic opportunities, had not gotten good quality or even any form of education, and they had suffered the consequences of the corruption, of the inequalities in our systems, you know, in our society, and had been pushed the edge, and finally handed a prison sentence because she didn't have a license, she was hawking, she was, you know, we have criminalized poverty in this country. And we criminalize it even further when they're in prison by taking away their dignity, their esteem. Surely, even if you're in prison, there are some minimum basics you'd require as a mother. We know there are mothers who are in those, as a woman, there are basic necessities you have to maintain your dignity. You know, sanitary towels, feminine hygiene products should be mandatory for all women who are imprisoned. We know there are mothers in those prisons who are accompanied by their children. What are we doing about that as a society? You know, those children come out of those places having learned vulgar language. What about their education? And those are the very early starting stages of their lives. So you take this poor woman off the streets, you imprison her with her child, and, you know, it's like they're lepers, modern day lepers. It was really tough to experience this.
And what are some of the other stories? I mean, you got to interact with some of the other ladies that were there, both those who had been accompanied by their children and others who were just there one-man basis. And were you able to encounter some of others who were wrongfully incriminated as well?
Yes.
And what are some of their stories, and how did they even end up there in terms of the legal system and the justice that were denied?
Yeah. So, as I've said, a huge percentage of those who are in prison are the poor. You will not find the rich. Those rich who are guilty will have paid their way off. And no wonder I was even sticking out in prison as an odd one out, because they were wondering, you're a well-educated girl, you seem like your family can put some funds together.
So why are
didn't
you here?
Why didn't you just pay off like everyone else?
And some would
not
advise you to just have done
Yeah,
that?
exactly. You know, because they know how this system works, which is so wrong. These are narratives we must change in our country. Prisons are meant for people who you know, to keep the public safe, not for the poor.
Not
the
to
people
house the poor.
You know, not to house the poor, you know. But because most of them have come from very poor and marginalized backgrounds,
They suffer
they
for
did
that.
not get legal representation.
Oh, okay.
They did not have any lawyer to defend them or to even take them through the charges that they're up against. Some of them could not even understand why they were in prison. Why? Because the judgment, they didn't understand the
What it
ruling.
entailed.
They didn't understand it because they couldn't understand that language because of the high levels of illiteracy in this country. Yeah? So those were some of the cases that I found there. Others, can you imagine someone has bought a license that is wrong because they couldn't read or write and ends up paying a price because of that? You know, others had left the house to go look for some means to bring some food back home for their children. So they were either hawking or they went prostituting, but they were arrested as loiterers.
Loitering, yeah.
You know, what are we doing to to change the situation of poverty in this country? Or we'll just keep taking the poor and continue with this thread of education is not for everybody, it's just for a few.
The
The economic opportunities are just for a few. You know, look at what is happening in Turkana today. Yeah? It's the same story,
Yeah.
different cast, different scripts. And we need to get serious about it and change these things in this country.
So when you look at the situation, is that those who are not as economically empowered get to suffer as compared to those who actually should be in prison for the crimes that they commit. I mean, we were saying some crimes going unprosecuted left,
Yes.
right, and center, yet there are people in prison who are suffering
Yes.
for something that is, you know, it's not worth even the time.
It's so petty.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that they're in prison. We have community service orders.
Yeah.
We have probation sentences. Those women should be serving those. And not to mention the young girls who are behind bars today. We invited RISPA through Brand Spark and Kim Fay to come join us for the Confidence Behind Bars project that they're running. And they met some of these girls, young teenage girls who are in the Boston institutions, and others are in rehab schools. Why do we even have those rehab schools where we do not have enough teachers, we don't have books, we don't have enough resources? Why do we even have those rehab schools in the first place? Or these Boston institutions where RISPA saw these girls in these Boston institutions where they do not have enough resources to take them through the education that they deserve. And then to make matters worse, the day they leave those institutions, they are either not in NEMIS or they are not, you know, the system is not aligned for them to join mainstream schools. The head teachers see these students and they are like, you're coming from a rehab school, you're coming from a prison, you should not come to my school because you're a bad child.
And even just for you, when you've done your prison time, it's now time to go out. It wasn't the same the way people actually received you. How was it for you in just terms of just trying to get back out there? Now with a baby, you are a new mom, fresh out of prison, and a whole experience that you did not see coming, but it just hit you, and now here you are as branded a certain way, now getting back into the society.
It was the most difficult part of the journey because I thought the world would sympathize with me because of what I had had to endure, only to be hit by the stigmatization of the fact that I was now an ex-con and no longer referred to as Teresa Njoroge. I had to really fight my way to request the world to give me a second chance to fit into society. But while I was doing that, I was lucky because I had support from my family. So I had a place to stay, I had some food for me and my child. I had a foundation to start rebuilding my life. Most of the women who I was serving time with in prison, when they got out, were in tears. They didn't have a house to go back to. They didn't have a family who would support them. They were going back to the same poor conditions that they came from. And the first stop for them was to look for where their children are even scattered across, because no one was even taking care of them. It was very, very difficult. And I remember a lady I served time with. She managed to serve a full 5-year term sentence, but she couldn't complete a year on the outside because of stigmatization. She committed suicide because stigmatization in this country of anyone coming out of prison is so rife. You can't get a job. For the young girls, they can't get a placement in school. How are you supposed to start life again? And that's why we have such high recidivism rates. People keep going back because it's comfortable back in there. And your esteem has been taken, your confidence has been taken away from you.
You have literally been stripped naked of
You
your
are
honor.
at your bare of bares. You can't get a certificate of good conduct. It's really tough rebuilding your life. And it's from that comprehensive experience of those injustices and that very traumatic experience that pushed me to set up Clean Start.
That's how Clean Start was born. Now, Clean Start started to just, from the experience that you had in that year that you were in prison, yet it felt like it was a lifetime.
Yeah.
All the things you went through, just thinking of someone who had been there for 5 years, 10 years. Now, how did even the partnership with Confidence come into play, especially for those women? You know, menses are a biological phenomenon. It's not a rarity, once in a lifetime event. It's a biological phenomenon that happens every month, yet it's something that is not considered. So how did your partnership with Confidence come into play to just restore that confidence in women, even if you're behind bars, regardless of where you are?
So this is the beautiful part of the journey, because at Clean Start we are 16 women. It's a team of 16 women and we've come together to, you know, run Clean Start. And what we do is we restore dignity for these women and these girls, hope, and we run our core program, which is called Spear, that, you know, it takes them from a point of a victim to a point of I'm a victor, I can make it, and helps them envision their dream and what they'd really love to do.
To dream again.
Yeah, do you want to go back to school? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to go to vocational training? And all of that. And we have a department also that deals with transiting them from institutions back into the society. We have another department that deals with the children of imprisoned mothers. And we've got research and advocacy and a couple of other departments within Clean Start. Now, what we do is we cannot do this work by ourselves. We need partnerships from the corporates. We need partnerships from the government. We need partnerships from across board, faith-based organizations, the community, the society, because remember, these people are coming back into the society. So we look for partnerships across board to enable us transit the women and girls back into the society successfully. And that's how we ended up partnering with Confidence, the Confidence Project, BrandSpark, and Kim Faye. And when we came together, they were looking at how do we restore the confidence for the women and the girls who are behind bars. And it fit in very well with our vision. And so the first project we've worked on is the one where we visited the girls at the Kamai Bostol, the Kamai Girls Bostol Institution, which is the only girls Bostol institution in Kenya, and it has girls from across the country, teenage girls who are serving up to a maximum of 3 years. And when Confidence came on board, they took them through beautiful lessons of resilience, how to take care of yourself as a young girl, which are very in line with what we do, and also provided some of the feminine products that they have.
That you actually need. And just from your interaction with, as we bring the conversation to an end, you know, your interaction with the girls there, you know, behind bars, what are some of the things that you actually taught them at Kamai Girls? What were the things that you actually taught them in just not losing yourself, your sense of identity, you know, that honor that you hold for yourself?
You know, teenage girls, if you've experienced a teenager before, they have insecurities about everything.
Already.
So imagine behind bars.
Gets
So
only worse.
something small like having your period can make you feel very, especially if you don't have the correct product that you're using to take care of yourself at the time, it really messes up with your psychology.
Yeah.
So what we did was we did not just want to give them the product and leave, we wanted to leave them with something that they can hold on to and as a hope that when I leave this place, this is what I'm going to hold on to forever,
Yeah.
which is how to be confident, because really nobody really teaches you that behind bars. Like, Sawa, you're behind here, this is who you are, this is what has happened, but then from here, where are you going? What are you
What
going to do?
next?
So how to be confident boils down up to how I'm going to be when I leave this place. It leaves that, it registers in your brain that
There's life after
there's
this.
life after this,
Yeah.
and I don't have to limit myself, break down
conform.
all the barriers that are limiting you to achieve your dreams, and that's how confidence comes in. So, and also when you're having your period, it's the time that you're most insecure about yourself because you're thinking about so many things.
A mess happening.
Exactly.
you know.
So it boils down to using the correct product for that helps you despite the reach, you know, how many of these pads are you given in a month? Maybe it's not enough. We had crazy stories like some of them wearing 2-3 pads so that they don't have to
Yeah.
change how many times in a day. Some give us stories of how they use mattresses, you know, some don't have panties, or even the pads that they're given in there is not enough. So we looked at it and said, you know, it's obviously not just that. Things like even books to read when you're down or when you're stressed, because another thing they go through is stress. Because you just keep thinking about yourself and how did I end up here? Why am I here? My peers are out there. I'm a teenager. What's going to happen to me? So giving someone a book to read and just to just explore the outside world on a different angle also helps you when you leave that place. You're able to think beyond your situation. Yeah,
There's always life after
Exactly.
prison.
exactly. And that's exactly how Clean Start comes in. Clean Start
Yeah,
means
literally.
means when
Clean
I leave
slate.
this place, I need to have a clean slate. But then you see, for these girls, readjusting back is not easy because you
It's
can
not.
feed them with all that, the skills that they need and the attitude that they need to leave. But when they leave, what are they getting? You see,
Right.
yeah.
And this is definitely a discussion that we can't exhaust in this one sitting. We'll
Exactly.
definitely make more time to continue with this discussion, especially looking at the legal system and the justice system. Why is it so crooked? You know, if you did something, if you did not do something, why is it that you have to suffer just because you did not give out that bribe, you did not bend to what somebody was saying, who is in a position that actually dictates the powers that be? Well, we will be continuing with this discussion. We'll definitely make more time to have this discussion, just looking at the legal system, the prison system, mothers in prison, young girls in prison. How is it that it's different for women than it is for men? What do they need in prison? Why is it that they're not able to get the basics for things that actually occur in nature, not a leisure, not anything, to just a basic requirement? We'll definitely continue with this discussion. Of course, talk more about what Clean Start is doing. What other partnerships are you looking to just get to just be able to be in a position that can help a girl who will one day pay it forward and help another girl. I have been speaking with Rispa Oluga. She is a representative from Confidence Sanitary Towels. To my immediate left, thank you so much. And to the extreme left, we have Teresa Njoroge, who is the CEO and founder of Clean Start, which is all about giving that woman a fresh new start without being judged, without being looked down upon. And of course, we'll be having her again to just know more about what Clean Start does and how you out there can help just make somebody else's life better. Thank you so much, ladies. We do hope that the little time we have had has actually impacted someone. Give us social media handles so that if guys want to just get in touch with you, they can be able to get in touch with you and know how to help in whatever simple way that they can. Let me start with you, Rispa.
So our Facebook handle, Facebook and Instagram is at Confidence Kenya, and what you can do is just drop us a message. Maybe you want to donate something or you want to reach out to Clean Start. You can easily do that via SMS.
Confidence
via
Kenya.
messaging. Yes,
All right.
Confidence Kenya.
What about for Clean
Clean
Start?
Start? So in addition to Confidence Kenya, they could also get in touch with us through Facebook, Clean Start, and Twitter, and on Instagram at Clean Start Kenya.
Confidence Kenya, Clean Start Kenya. Get in touch. You do not have to give monetary contribution. You can just buy a pad. Buy a pod, get in touch with them and know how you can be able to just get it to them, and they'll be able to get it to those who actually need them in prison, just being a woman. All right, so we want to take a quick break, but up next, Ram Maguko is coming in with the next discussion all about the Inua Jamii new payment model, the choice model. What is it about? What does it entail? What does it mean for you? How is it going to help you? Just, you know, in terms of the payments, how is it an upgrade to what we currently have? Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.